Hi guys, it's Brad here. I'm just going to show you how to set up the structure for a channel engagement program and how to import data into it. So I've got a new account here, and to begin with I'm going to set up the organization types to represent our structure. So the structure that we recommend, and that's appropriate for most brands doing channel engagement, is that you have an organization type for your sales territories, and you'll have your sales people will be connected to those territories, and then you load your actual channel, so that's your stores or dealers or what other partners you have, as organizations within those sales territories. And then same again, the actual customers will have profiles connected to those dealerships. Using this model lets you deal with the tricky situations that arise, such as where one person might be responsible for multiple stores. Sometimes stores merge or are split, and you can manage the evolution of your sales territories. So the first thing is to create the organization types that I've done already, and here. Now the important thing to note is that for each organization type we have the display text, and then we have a code, and the code is going to be referenced from import files and things, so it's good to keep that short and without punctuation and things like that that can change and cause problems when importing. Now what I have to import is a fairly typical spreadsheet that we'll see that represents this structure. So typically you'll have some sort of identifier for each customer or each store. You'll have the name of that store. Then there's usually some sort of code for each sales territory, and the sales territory for the store is a column. For each store there will often be an email address for the salesperson for that territory. There will be the name of the salesperson for that territory. Then you'll also have an email address for the customer, and you'll have first name, surname for the customer. So that's the information that you usually have to import, or something similar to that. Now I've just added a couple of columns here. This is going to help with the import process. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to use this one spreadsheet to actually import 4 different things. The first thing that we're going to do is import it to create our sales rep territories. So these will be organizations, and there's just going to be the 2 of them, T1 and T2. Then the second thing we're going to do is import the customer or the dealership as organizations. And that's going to have the ID and the name, and in that case the territory will be what we call a parent organization. So that's the first 2, creating the organizations. Then what we're going to do is import users. So we're going to create users for the sales manager for each territory. So there'll be 2 of those, Joe and Susan. And then we're going to import the users. So these are the actual dealer principals or store owners. So we have 4 of them here: Bob, Jane, Harry and Sue. Okay, so let's do those 4 imports now. So we start with the organizations page. We choose to use the import wizard. So I'm going to upload that spreadsheet. Click next. Okay, so here we're going to map the columns, and this is where it's really important to keep in mind what we're importing. The first case here, we're importing the sales rep territories. So we need to choose an organization ID, which we're going to choose for the sales rep territory ID. And then we want to have a name for the territory, and usually it's just named after the manager. So I'm going to choose the name field for the sales manager column. And that's actually all we have to import, but I want to make sure that this is imported with the organization type of sales territory. It's going to make my database easier to manage. So that's why I've added that column, and I'm going to choose type. Right, now I click next, And this is telling me that there's 4 rows to import, and that's because 4 rows in that spreadsheet do not exist in the database. Now, however, we know they're duplicated. Each one is there twice, so it's actually not going to create 4 sales territories. It's going to create 2. So I click import. There we go. So it tells me it created 2 and then it updated 2. Okay, so now let's just double check that has done what we expected. So we'll go to the organizations page. There's our 2 sales territories. Let's go to organization types where we get to see a summary and we can see 2 there. Great. Okay, so now we're going to import the actual dealerships. So we're going to upload the same file again. We're just going to choose different column headings. So now the customer ID is going to be the organization ID. The dealership is going to be the name of the organization. The sales rep territory is going to be the parent organization. So by making the sales rep territory the parent, that means in terms of reporting, your sales reps can see or have all of that data underneath them. We can ignore that information for the sales manager. That's going to be imported as users. We do want to create the customer email. So what that's going to do is just set an email address on the organization itself, which comes in handy sometimes. We can ignore the name of the customer because we'll import that in the next step. And we want to choose a type. We want this to be a dealer, but we're going to ignore the sales territory because this is not a sales territory. Right. Okay, so we click next. Tells us 4 rows will be inserted. And we do the insert, the import. And there we are, that's imported 4. So now if we go and look at our organizations database, okay, we can see we have 6 organizations in total. We can see there's a dealer and its path, so it's telling you its parent organization. It's Joe Blogs, and here we have a sales rep. Now I can filter over here by type, so I can choose just to see dealers, there's the 4 of them, or I can choose just to see territories, there's those 2. Or I can filter by the parent territory, so I can see all of the stores that are in Joe Blogs territory, for example. Right. Okay, so now we've set up the organization structure of our channel in sales. So the next step is to import users into it. Right. So what I'll do first is import the sales managers. So I'm going to choose the same spreadsheet again. Going to select the default group of sales manager, and I set up these groups previously, by the way. So in this case we want to import the sales manager. Alright, so that's going to be the user's email address, and in this case I've got the whole name in one column rather than split out in the first and surname, so I've got a field called whole name for that. Now I need to choose the organization that this user is going to be put into. So I just use the organization column, and then I don't need any of the customer information. That'll be imported later. Right, again, there's 4 rows will be inserted. But as we know, there's actually 2 salespeople and they're duplicated, so that's actually inserted 2 new rows. Great, so let's check that's done what we expected. There we go. There's our 2 sales managers, Joe and Susan. So let's import our customers now. Same file again. Oops. So the default group is going to be dealer. Alright, so I'm importing dealers now. Right, so the customer email address, so this is going to go onto the user profile this time rather than the organization, and I have their first name and surname split out in separate fields, and I need to choose the customer ID. This is the organization that the user is going to be put into. I don't need to import the dealership name or anything to do with the sales again, so I'm just importing the customer's email, the customer's name, and the organization that they're in. So that's telling me 4 rows to insert. Alright, and there we go, it's created 4 records. Now if I go back to my users page, great, so they're all there. So what I can see here is I have filtering by group, I have 2 sales managers. Filtering by dealers, I have 4 dealers. And I can filter them by store or by sales territory. So if I see the sales territory, I'm just seeing who's in that direct organization, and same for my dealers. Right, so now that we have our channel imported in terms of organizations and users, we can then go and send an email out to them. We can set up the different channel engagement mechanisms like incentives and reward programs, yeah, which is all covered in another video. So thank you.